The space station buzzed with life. Hundreds of species moved through the corridors, their shapes, colors, and sizes so different that it felt like a galaxy of worlds had come together in one place. Some were tall and thin, their limbs twisting in strange angles. Others were small and round, with eyes that seemed to see in multiple directions at once. The smells, sounds, and lights of the station were overwhelming, even for a seasoned traveler. In the middle of it all was the station cafeteria. Long tables stretched across the room, filled with food of all types, glowing fruits from the outer rim, thick slabs of meat from distant worlds, and liquids that shimmered in colors no human tongue could name. Aliens sat together in groups, laughing, eating, and exchanging words that sounded almost like music, but not all of them fit in. Near the edge of the cafeteria, standing by the counter, was a girl. She had one leg. Her small frame made her seem fragile among the giants of the room, and she leaned heavily on a simple support device, moving slowly, step by step. Her eyes were large and round, reflecting both fear and hope as she watched the other diners. Other aliens noticed her too. Some stared openly, their expressions a mix of curiosity and disgust. Others whispered behind their hands, glancing at her as if she were invisible and dangerous at the same time. The whispers made her chest tighten. She felt small and exposed, more like a mistake than a person. She had learned to be careful. Ever since she had arrived at the station, she had kept to the shadows, taking small bites of food from the counters and retreating before anyone could notice her. She was a survivor. Her missing leg was a story she could never forget, a result of cruel labor on a distant mining world where she had been forced to work long years in darkness. But here, at least, she was free. Even so, freedom came with its own pain. Every glance, every whisper reminded her that she was different. She longed to belong, to sit with someone without fear, to be treated like any other being. Across the room, a human sat alone at a small table. He was quiet, calm, and completely ordinary compared to the chaos of the cafeteria. His hair was messy from long hours of work, and his uniform was simple and functional. He held a tray of food, slowly picking at it while his eyes scanned the room, not with judgment but with observation. The girl noticed him immediately. Unlike the others, he did not stare. He did not flinch at her missing leg or her support device. He did not look away in discomfort. He simply existed, eating his meal as if she were not even unusual. Her heart beat faster. Could it be possible? Could someone see her without pity or fear? She took a small step forward, then stopped. Her leg trembled beneath her and she adjusted her support carefully. Then she took another step, and another. The human noticed her movement. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. There was no shock, no hesitation, only calm curiosity. She froze. The room felt suddenly silent. The other aliens paused, sensing the tension. Some leaned closer, whispering to each other, curious about the interaction. In a soft voice, trembling almost imperceptibly, the girl asked, "Can I join you at the table?" The words barely carried across the space, but they were enough to stop everyone in their tracks. A simple question, yet it felt like a challenge to every unspoken rule of the station. The human blinked, surprised. He had not expected this. But surprise did not turn into discomfort. Slowly he nodded. "Yes," he said, "please." The girl's chest felt tight. She could not believe it. She had expected a refusal, a glare, a word of dismissal, but instead she found acceptance. Hesitant, she moved toward the table, each step careful, as if testing the reality of the moment. Other aliens watched. Some shook their heads, murmuring under their breaths. They had never seen a human act this way. It was strange, different, unusual. The girl reached the table and placed her support carefully beside her. She sat, careful not to draw attention. Her eyes darted to the human, searching for any sign of mockery. There was none. He continued eating, speaking only when necessary, asking simple questions about her journey to the station, her favorite foods, and whether she found the place too overwhelming. His voice was calm, steady, and patient. For the first time in years, she felt a strange sense of peace. She did not have to hide. She did not have to shrink. She could simply exist. And someone, a human, treated her as if she deserved the same respect as anyone else. The cafeteria did not return to silence immediately. Other aliens stared, their whispers still barely quiet. Some were confused. Others were embarrassed, realizing they had ignored beings weaker than themselves for too long. The girl noticed this too. It made her nervous. She did not want to become the center of attention. She only wanted to eat, to exist, to be seen as someone more than just her missing leg. The human noticed her glance and smiled slightly. "Don't worry about them," he said softly. "They will learn." She tilted her head, unsure if he meant this as a comfort or a warning. He continued, "It is not your fault they do not understand. Strength is not just what they see. Strength is endurance, will, survival, and look at you, you are still here." She could not speak. Tears pricked her eyes, not from pain but from relief. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever seen her as capable, as strong, simply because of who she was, not what she lacked. The conversation continued, slow and careful. The human asked about her home planet, her family, and the strange adventures she might have dreamed of having. She spoke softly at first, then more confidently as the minutes passed. She laughed quietly at some of his jokes, even though they were simple. She began to feel for the first time that maybe she belonged somewhere. Time seemed to stretch. The cafeteria, full of noise and chaos, faded to the background. The human and the alien girl sat at their small table, a bubble of calm in the middle of the crowded room. Later, as the meal ended, she realized she had forgotten the fear that always accompanied food and company. The human stood, placing his tray in the disposal unit. He waited, patient as ever, for her to gather her things. "Do you want to come back tomorrow?" he asked casually. She nodded, unsure if she dared hope. "Yes," she said softly. As she left the table, she noticed the other aliens watching her. She could see curiosity in their eyes and maybe a small spark of respect. She did not feel like a mistake anymore. She felt like someone who belonged, even if only at one small table in a vast station. The human watched her leave, smiling slightly to himself. He knew the galaxy could be cruel, that many would judge without understanding. But here, at this table, he had made a choice. A simple choice. He had chosen to include, to see value where others only saw weakness. It was not much, but it was a start. The girl returned to her small quarters that evening, replaying the conversation in her mind. She realized she had done something brave. She had asked to be seen, and a human had said yes. The room outside was quiet, the station lights dimming for the night, but inside her chest a small warmth glowed. Hope, trust, maybe even courage. Tomorrow, she thought, she would return. And tomorrow, she would not be alone in her quiet rebellion against a galaxy that judged too quickly. Because at one small table in one crowded cafeteria, a human had chosen to believe in someone who others had discarded. And in that choice, the alien girl found a strength she had never known she possessed. She looked at her support device, the one that had always reminded her of what she had lost. For the first time, it felt less like a burden and more like a companion. It had carried her to this moment, and this moment, she realized, could change everything. And somewhere across the room, a human engineer, ordinary in every way except in the choices he made, had unknowingly begun a small revolution. One quiet act, one simple table could ripple further than anyone imagined. The station would not change overnight. Some aliens would still stare, some would still whisper, but something small and unstoppable had begun, and it had a name: humanity. The first day ended quietly, but it was unforgettable. The girl lay down in her small quarters, exhausted but alive in a way she had never been before. Tomorrow, she thought, the world would seem slightly less cold. And maybe, just maybe, she would not be the only one to discover it. The next morning, the station hummed with its usual chaos. Merchants shouted over the sounds of engines, delivery drones weaved between the corridors, and travelers of every shape and size hurried to their destinations. Yet, for the one-legged alien girl, the day began with a small spark of courage that the night had left behind. She walked carefully toward the cafeteria, her support device steady beneath her. Each step reminded her of yesterday, the human, the table, the unexpected kindness. She had never imagined that returning to a crowded place could feel like bravery. Most days she avoided people altogether. She kept her head down, her movements small, hoping to pass unnoticed. But yesterday had changed something. As she entered the cafeteria, she noticed a few familiar eyes watching her. Some aliens whispered, some stared openly. She felt the familiar sting of self-consciousness, yet it was different this time. She did not shrink. She did not turn away. She kept walking, focusing on the small table near the center where the human always sat. He was already there, finishing a breakfast tray of simple human-style food. His hair was messy and his eyes looked tired, but when he saw her, a small smile formed on his face. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm. "Good morning," she replied softly. She placed her tray on the table, her fingers brushing the surface nervously. I hope it is okay that I came again." "Of course," he said simply. "You are welcome any time." The words felt like a shield against the world outside. She sat, adjusting her support, and took a deep breath. She had prepared herself for whispers, for judgment, for rejection. But here, at this table, none of that mattered. For a while they ate in silence. The cafeteria around them continued its chaotic rhythm, but they existed in a small bubble of calm. Then, slowly, conversation began. The human asked about her journey to the station. "It must have been hard," he said. She nodded, hesitant. I worked on a mining world. It was dangerous. The others there, they treated me like I was less because of my leg. They didn't care if I was strong in my mind, only if I could work like everyone else." He listened carefully, not interrupting. "I see," he said. "That must have been very hard. But you survived. That shows strength. Not everyone could do what you did." She stared at him, surprised. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. Most people treated her like she was fragile, like her missing leg defined her entire life. But he saw something else. "Something more." "What do you mean?" she asked. "Strength," he said, picking up a small piece of fruit. "Strength is not only physical, it is endurance, patience, courage. You have all of these just by being here." She wanted to argue, but she found no words. No one had ever told her that surviving, simply existing, was strength. Her whole life she had felt broken, incomplete. Now, for the first time, she felt capable. The conversation continued, moving slowly. He asked about her home planet, her dreams, and the things she wanted to learn. She began to speak more freely, her voice gaining confidence with every word. He did not interrupt or judge. He simply listened, asked gentle questions, and shared small stories from his own life. "On Earth," he said casually, "humans often judge strength differently. We do not only look at the body, we look at the mind, the will to survive, and the choices a person makes. That is how we measure worth." She listened closely, fascinated. His words were simple, but they carried a kind of power she had never heard before. Here was a being from another world, yet his way of seeing the galaxy felt correct. Somewhere across the room, other aliens watched. They whispered quietly to each other. They had never seen a human act like this. To them, he should have looked away, ignored her, or even mocked her. But he did not. His calm respect made some of them feel ashamed, though they would never admit it out loud. After a while, a group of station workers approached. They were large, intimidating aliens who often roamed the cafeteria, asserting authority through looks and voices. They stopped at the edge of the table, their presence heavy. "Why are you sitting with her?" one of them demanded. His voice was loud, echoing across the room. "She is different. She cannot do what others do. You should leave her alone." The girl's hands shook. She had feared this moment, though she had hoped it would not come. She wanted to disappear, to retreat to the safety of her room. But the human did not flinch. He looked up, meeting the alien's gaze calmly. "I am sitting here because she is capable," he said simply. "Her strength is not obvious to you, but it exists, and it deserves respect." The cafeteria grew quiet. Some aliens shifted in their seats, unsure how to react. Many had never heard a human speak this way, and the clarity of his words made them uncomfortable. "Capable?" one of the station workers asked, sneering. "She is weak. She cannot even—" "Stop," the human interrupted firmly but without anger. "Strength is not only what you can do with your body. It is endurance, courage, and survival. She has survived more than most of you could imagine." The group hesitated, looking at the alien girl. For the first time, they seemed to notice her beyond her missing leg. They saw her eyes, alert and intelligent. They saw her posture, careful and strong despite what she had lost. They saw her courage simply to be here. The group finally left, grumbling but defeated. The human returned to his meal as if nothing had happened, calm and ordinary. The girl stared at him in awe. You didn't even yell," she whispered. "No need," he said. "Sometimes showing respect is louder than any words." The day passed slowly. Other aliens began to approach, quietly at first. Some asked questions about her leg, her device, and where she had come from. Others simply observed, curious about the human's calm behavior. The alien girl realized that she had not only gained a friend but also a small following. Without realizing it, she had begun to teach others something important. It was not physical strength that mattered, it was courage, endurance, and the choices one made. By midday, she felt something she had never experienced before: pride. Not arrogance, but pride in simply existing, in surviving, and in choosing to sit at a table where she belonged. She had faced fear and judgment and had come out stronger. The human and the alien girl continued to meet every day. He shared small lessons about humanity, how humans respected survival, intelligence, and empathy. She began to understand that her worth was not defined by what she lacked, but by who she was. Other station residents slowly noticed the change. Some began to approach her table, not with hostility but with curiosity. They observed quietly, learning from the human's example. Even the whispers seemed less sharp. The alien girl began to help herself in small ways. She started to speak louder, move with more confidence, and even laugh at the human's jokes without hesitation. She realized that the world did not have to see her as broken. She could define her own strength. One afternoon, as the human helped her carry her tray back to the disposal unit, a young alien approached nervously. He had been watching the table from a distance, unsure if he could join. May I sit with you?" he asked quietly. The alien girl smiled, glancing at the human. "Of course," she said, feeling a warmth in her chest. "There is always room." The human nodded, approving silently. His small acts of inclusion had created a ripple, a subtle shift in the cafeteria. Slowly, other outcasts, injured beings, and those left alone began to find courage. They sat, spoke, and joined in. By evening, the cafeteria was different. Not completely changed, but different. Tables were still crowded, noises still loud, but there was a new energy. It was quieter, calmer, yet stronger. There was respect, growing slowly like a small fire. The alien girl felt something she had never felt before: hope. Not the fragile kind, but solid, steady hope. She had survived cruel worlds, faced judgment, and endured pain. And now she realized she could thrive. The human looked at her, smiling slightly. "You see," he said, "strength is not always obvious, but when it is recognized, it can change everything." She nodded, understanding. It was not just about her, it was about others too. Her courage, combined with the human's respect, had begun to shift a small corner of the galaxy. And that shift, she realized, could grow far beyond this small table. The day ended with her returning to her quarters, tired but alive in a new way. She lay on her bed, thinking of the table, the human, and the small victories of the day. She knew challenges would come again, but for the first time she felt ready. The galaxy might judge her, other species might ignore her, but she had discovered something greater, that her strength, though quiet, was undeniable. And sometimes all it took was one human to see it. Tomorrow, she thought, she would return. And tomorrow, she would continue to teach, continue to survive, and continue to show that strength comes in many forms. For the first time in her life, she felt unstoppable. Not because she could fight, or run, or lift great weights, but because she could endure, hope, and be seen. And that, she realized, was more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy. The station had grown quieter in the early morning. The hum of engines, the rush of travelers, and the chatter of merchants were still there, but something subtle had shifted in the air. The cafeteria felt different, not entirely changed, but lighter, warmer. Small acts of courage and kindness had left a mark. The one-legged alien girl walked through the corridors with her support device steady beneath her. Her small footsteps echoed softly, but her head was held high. For the first time, she felt as if she belonged, as if the galaxy were not only a place of judgment and fear, but also of opportunity, understanding, and growth. When she entered the cafeteria, her eyes immediately searched for the human. He was there, as always, calm, eating a simple breakfast. But today, the table looked different. It was no longer just the human and the alien girl. Other outcasts, injured beings, and lonely travelers sat at nearby tables, inspired by the example they had witnessed. Slowly, the ripple of courage had grown. The alien girl smiled, moving to her seat. She placed her tray down and looked at the human. "Good morning," she said, her voice steady. "Good morning," he replied, nodding. "I see the table is filling up." "Yes," she said quietly. It seems others want to join too." The human smiled, as if pleased with something he had known all along. "Strength is recognized in many ways," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is one person to see it for others to notice." Throughout the morning, the cafeteria slowly filled with beings who had long been ignored. The alien girl watched as nervous newcomers approached the table, unsure if they belonged. She reached out a hand, offering a small smile. "Come sit with us," she said. "There is always room." One by one, they joined. Some were injured, some were small, some were quiet and shy. But under the human's calm example and with her gentle encouragement, they felt accepted. They began to eat, talk, and laugh. The alien girl noticed something she had never seen before. Other aliens, the strong and confident ones, observing quietly, listening to the conversations. Some were shocked. Others looked thoughtful, as if realizing that their own judgments had been too harsh. A group of station leaders entered, tall and imposing figures who usually ignored the cafeteria's smaller residents. They stopped near the entrance, watching the scene unfold. One of them spoke softly to the others. "They are different," the leader said. "That human, he does not see weakness the way we do. And that girl, she is remarkable." The alien girl overheard a few words but did not falter. She had learned to focus on what mattered: the table, the human, and the new friends she was making. Later, one of the young aliens who had joined the table approached her. I was afraid," he said quietly. "No one would let me sit anywhere, but you invited me." She smiled. "Everyone deserves a chance," she replied. "It only takes courage to ask. And someone willing to say yes." The young alien looked at the human, then back at her. "You are both different. You make the world feel safe." The alien girl felt a warmth spread through her chest. She realized that what they had created at this table was not just a place to eat. It was a small community, a place where those who had been ignored, rejected, or judged could exist freely. The human spoke quietly to her. "Do you see?" he asked. "One small act, sitting together, can change many lives. It is not just about strength in battle or survival. It is about the strength to include, to respect, and to hope." She nodded, understanding more than ever. His words were simple, yet they carried a truth stronger than any weapon. The day continued, and word spread quickly through the station. Other aliens, inspired by what they saw, began to act differently. Small groups of workers who had once avoided the injured or weak now offered assistance. Travelers who had never spoken to outsiders began to share their stories. The ripple of human compassion grew quietly but powerfully. By mid-afternoon, the cafeteria looked almost unrecognizable. Tables that had once been full of isolation now held mixed groups of species. Some laughed together, some shared stories of hardship and survival, and some quietly observed, learning from the calm courage of the human and the one-legged alien girl. The alien girl felt a sense of pride she had never known. She had survived cruelty, fear, and judgment. And now she realized she could thrive. She was no longer defined by what she lacked. She was defined by what she had endured and the courage she now carried. A senior station official approached the table later in the day. Tall, armored, and imposing, the alien had a reputation for strict rules and rigid thinking. Yet he stopped, looking at the group with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "I have been watching," he said, his voice low. You have done something unusual. You have created a space for those who are often ignored. This is remarkable." The alien girl felt her chest tighten. I didn't do it alone," she said softly. The human, he helped. He showed me that it was possible." The official nodded. "Sometimes it only takes one example, and he is human, correct?" "Yes," she replied. "He sees strength in ways we often forget, and he taught me to see it too." The official looked thoughtful. "Perhaps the galaxy can learn from this small table." The girl smiled. For the first time, she felt not just included but influential. Her courage, combined with the human's calm example, had begun to change the station, and perhaps in a small way the galaxy beyond it. As evening approached, the human and the alien girl prepared to leave. The cafeteria was quieter now, but the energy remained: hope, respect, and the subtle power of inclusion. "You have done well," the human said, smiling at her. "You have grown stronger in ways you may not even realize." I couldn't have done it without you," she said honestly. You showed me how to stand even when others judge." He shook his head. "You stood yourself. I only gave you permission to see it." They walked together through the corridors, their small footsteps echoing. For the alien girl, the station no longer felt overwhelming. It no longer felt hostile. She realized that she had created her own place, her own space, where she belonged and where others could belong too. Over the following weeks, the ripple continued. The table grew larger, welcoming more beings each day. Injured workers, quiet travelers, and small species who had been ignored found their place. They laughed, shared meals, and told stories. The one-legged alien girl became a quiet leader, respected not for force or power, but for courage, endurance, and the ability to see worth in others. One day, she noticed a new alien standing hesitantly at the edge of the cafeteria. He looked nervous, unsure of where he could sit. She smiled and waved him over. "Come sit with us," she said warmly. "There is always room at the table." The human watched, smiling slightly. He had started this quiet revolution with a single choice: to see value where others ignored it. Now, the alien girl carried that choice forward, teaching others the same lesson. The small table in the center of the cafeteria had become more than a place to eat. It was a symbol, a beacon of hope, a reminder that strength is not always measured in power, size, or speed. True strength lies in endurance, courage, inclusion, and the ability to see worth in others. By the time the station's artificial sun set, casting a warm glow across the room, the alien girl felt a sense of peace. She had survived cruelty, learned courage, and now she could teach it. The cafeteria, once a place of fear and judgment, had transformed into a space of trust, respect, and hope. She looked at the human who was quietly packing up his tray. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything." He shook his head, smiling. "No, thank you. for showing everyone that courage and hope can change the galaxy. The alien girl turned to watch the others at the table. Young aliens, injured beings, and those who had long been ignored were laughing, talking, and sharing food. She realized that one small act, a choice to include, a choice to see worth, had created something far greater than she had imagined. For the first time, she did not feel broken, weak, or unworthy. She felt strong, not in body but in spirit. And she knew that strength, quietly nurtured, could ripple through the galaxy in ways no one could predict. The station continued its hum, the engines, the chatter, the lights, and the chaos. But at one small table, something extraordinary had begun. A human and a one-legged alien girl had shown that courage, kindness, and respect were stronger than judgment, cruelty, or fear. And that lesson, simple yet powerful, would not be forgotten. As the night settled over the station, the girl thought of the journey ahead. Challenges would come, judgment and fear would still exist, but now she had the courage to face them. She had the support of a human who saw worth where others ignored it. And she had a growing community of those who understood that true strength comes from endurance, courage, and the choice to include. The galaxy might be vast and unforgiving, but at this table, hope had found a home. And for the alien girl, that was more than enough. Because sometimes, one small table, one act of inclusion, and one human's choice could change everything.